Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Ironworker Gaming Channel. I am Ironworker814, and thank you for joining me for another Destiny 2 PvP viewer-requested weapon review, where we go over pros, cons, stats, damage numbers, and how to obtain the weapon. This weapon review is coming at you by request of Chris Inch, and I'm sure, as you already figured out, the weapon on the docket for today is Outbreak Perfected. If you want to check out the description of this video, I do have a list of upcoming viewer-requested weapon reviews, and there's a whole bunch of them. At 3 videos a week, I'm not sure if I'm going to live long enough to see the end of this list, but if there is a weapon you'd like to see reviewed, make sure you're subbed up to the Ironworker Gaming channel, drop it in the comments below, and I will try my best to get to it. But Outbreak Perfected was originally Outbreak Prime, and it was a Destiny 1 raid exotic from the Wrath of the Machine raid during the Rise of Iron. The steps to obtain this weapon in Destiny 1 were pretty insane, and how anyone ever figured them out is still amazing to me. But man, was it a fine weapon, and when it was reinstated in Destiny 2, Outbreak Perfected came back to us in pretty much the same exact form. And while it does require substantially less work to obtain in Destiny 2, there was still a good deal of secrecy on how to initially start this quest. But it all culminated in a very difficult dungeon-like mission, very similar to Whisper of the Worm. But the payoff was totally worth it, rewarding you with a primary weapon packing enough punch to melt raid bosses. We're here to check out how this gun's holding up in the Crucible in Season of Arrivals, and we're going to take a good hard look at Outbreak Perfected after we take a look at how to obtain this weapon for those who have not done so already. Just a quick heads up here, in fall of 2020 with the Beyond Light expansion, Titan will be removed as a playable destination. This may affect how the weapon is acquired after that point. First thing you're going to need to do is complete the Enemy of My Enemy mission on Titan. Once complete, head back to the rig, make your way south through a series of rooms and corridors until you reach a red door that was previously locked but now may be unlocked. On one of the desks in this room you will find a fallen transponder that upon inspecting you will see has 6 nodes. To fill these nodes you'll need to grab small red disc-like objects that are semi-hidden in 6 different lost sectors. Of the 6 of these, 4 can be found on Earth. 2 of them are in the Lands, 1 in Widow's Walk, 1 in the Atrium, 2 of them are in the Outskirts, 1 in the Drain, 1 in Whispered Falls. The other 2 are found on Nessus, 1 in the Rift in Exodus Black, and 1 in the Carrion Pit in Glade of Echoes. Do a little poking around in here. They are hidden, but they are not too terribly difficult to find. After finding all 6, head to the farm, down into the basement of one of the houses, and talk to Mithrax. He will start you on the 0 hour mission. On release, this mission was no joke, and even now, it's not the easiest thing to complete. There is a covert match game modifier with heavily shielded enemies of all element types. There are also maze-like elements to this mission with several wrong turns to make, and you're going to be hurried along by a 20-minute timer. So bring some friends and bring your A-game, and upon completion, Outbreak Perfected will be yours. There is also a catalyst available for Outbreak, which requires at least 3 more run-throughs of this mission, along with some puzzle-solving aspects, unless quest steps have changed since the release of the mission. I do not have the catalyst unlocked yet, and I am not going to give you the full rundown on how to do this, but there are a lot of great guides out there explaining it. So with that out of the way, let's head into the stats and damage numbers. Outbreak Perfected is an exotic kinetic pulse rifle belonging to the lightweight frame archetype, shooting at 450 rounds per minute with 36 rounds in the magazine. As far as stats go, nothing stands out here as overly impressive, but range is quite good for a lightweight frame pulse. And that stability stat you see there does not coincide with how this weapon behaves in game. I'll explain more in the pros. Checking in with Light.gg, we see aim assist coming in at a 65 with a recoil of 80 and a bounce intensity of 20. Here again, these all seem pretty low to me, taking the in-game performance of the weapon into account. And note the discrepancy in the range stat. I think this may be a mistake on Light.gg's part putting it at 50 because this weapon does have a good amount of reach to it. The intrinsic trait is the Corruption Spreads. This weapon creates Siva nanite swarms on rapid hits and precision kills. The exotic perk is Parasitism. This weapon does more damage to enemies based on the number of Siva nanites that attach to them. This weapon also has Outlaw for that nice boost to reload speed after a precision kill. Outbreak Perfected's Catalyst, once obtained and unlocked, increases nanite damage. Enemies that die with nanites attached to them generate additional nanites. Since I didn't have the catalyst to test for myself, I did a little extra research and found you are going to spawn 3 additional nanites and their damage will increase by 30%. But as far as the damage numbers go, Outbreak Perfected is going to do 25 points of damage on a critical hit and 16 points of damage to the body, giving us an optimal time to kill of 0.87 seconds requiring 8 crits, and a body shot time to kill of 1.33 seconds requiring 12 shots landed. For the nanite damage, you are going to spawn 9 nanites on a kill that will do 10 damage apiece, doing 90 total damage if all of them land on a single target. During testing, I found a portion of these nanites can start the track up to 8 meters away. And to land a full swarm on an enemy guardian, that target will have to be roughly 6 meters away from the cloud. For the damage increase from the nanites through the parasitism perk. After some pretty thorough testing, we found that each stuck nanite will cause the target to take 16% more damage. In the Crucible, this damage increase does cap out at 76% with 5 or more stuck nanites, causing Outbreak Perfected to do 44 points of damage on a critical hit and 27 points of damage to the body. If you need any clarification on these damage numbers, feel free to leave a comment down below and I can get into it a little deeper down there. But with what I feel is all the major points conveyed, let's head into the pros. Right off the bat, Outbreak Perfected, along with all other exotic weapons, are sunset proof until further notice. And the first thing we're going to touch on here with Outbreak is the range and stability. As you can see on screen, Outbreak does not see any damage fall off till about 36.5 meters, which is pretty respectable for a 450 RPM pulse. But the incredible stability here allows you to land these shots very consistently at this range. Take a look on screen at how tight that grouping is when fired from extended ranges, even when spamming the trigger. A lot of people around the community have theorized that Outbreak comes intrinsically with the persistence perk from Destiny 1, which makes the weapon grow more accurate the longer it is fired. And I can definitely see where they're coming from, but either way, this weapon is extremely stable and extremely accurate. Also, Outbreak Perfected feels very sticky and feels like it is packing a good amount of bullet magnetism, which is why I think that aim assist stat from Light.gg at 65 feels a touch low. When you're pulling the trigger on this thing, it wants to hit heads, plain and simple. And then the nanites, they're just awesome all around. Not only will they track a target, but they will linger for around 4 seconds, so even if a secondary target isn't initially right next to the swarm, the potential is there for that target to accidentally wander into the cloud. And while any collateral damage in the Crucible is nice, if an enemy takes a full swarm of these nanites, they are one burst away from being down since you are going to be doing 44 points of damage on a critical hit. This can be especially useful in control game modes where your enemies tend to group up a little bit more. And on top of that, if your teammates are using Outbreak Perfected, you absolutely share the damage increase from these nanites, which makes Outbreak Perfected that much more lethal through a tiny bit of team synergy. And maybe the most important thing is the fact that this weapon just feels good. I mean, you can have all the coolest perks with the wild damage numbers, but if a weapon just feels like garbage, you're not going to want to use it. And Outbreak just simply feels good when you're pulling the trigger. But as with every weapon in Destiny 2, we do have some cons to consider, so let's take a look at those now. Alright, let's start off the cons by looking at the handling and reload stats here. They are quite a bit lower than other 450 RPM pulses, which can make the weapon feel a little bit less responsive. Because of this, you're generally going to want to play at mid-range with Outbreak, making a close range option in your special slot almost a necessity. Then the Corruption Spread's intrinsic trait only seems to half work in the Crucible. You will see nanites spawn and attach on a kill, but a single enemy guardian just can't take enough rounds from this thing to see any nanites attached due to the rapid hits. And the last big con to touch on is that in general, lightweight frame pulses are just not in a great spot right now. We ran into the same issue when we were reviewing Bad Juju. A 0.87 second optimal time to kill is a hard workaround in the current sandbox. And I mean, pulse rifles in general, aside from the high impacts, are having a rough go at it, simply because 600 RPM auto rifles are so strong here in Season of Arrivals, especially now that everyone can grab a god roll gnawing hunger with very minimal effort. Then consider that lightweight frame pulse rifles and adaptive frame auto rifles basically cover the same effective range, but auto rifles are much more lethal, sporting a 0.7 second optimal time to kill. And generally, auto rifles are far more user friendly since you can just lay on the trigger rather than having to time your shot cadence. If in the future we see 600 RPM auto rifles toned down just a touch, or lightweight frame pulse rifles brought up a little bit, this might be a completely different story. But for now, Outbreak resides in an archetype that is flat out outclassed by many other weapons. So, is Outbreak Perfected a good option for the Crucible? If this were any other 450 RPM pulse rifle, I would probably say no. But since you now have a very good understanding of how this weapon works, and if you are committed to playing to this weapon's strength, this weapon can be a viable option for PvP. Just understand that you're probably going to have to work a little bit harder to see max results with Outbreak Perfected. But rest assured, this weapon is still capable of some amazing things here in the Crucible during Season 11. So if you've enjoyed this weapon review or found it useful in any way, please remember to hit the like button. These weapon reviews require a ton of work on my part, and leaving a like really goes a long way in helping this video reach more people. To ensure that you never miss one of my videos, consider subscribing to the Ironworker Gaming channel and turning notifications on with the bell icon. If you'd like to catch me live, you can look for Ironworker814 on Twitch, head over there, drop me a follow, and you'll get notified whenever I hop on. If you'd like to get a hold of me, the best way is simply to leave a comment down below. I read and respond to all my comments because I respect your time and I truly enjoy interacting with you guys. And with all that being said, I'd like to thank you for spending a piece of your day checking out this weapon review. You guys are awesome, and I will catch you on the next one.